Israeli official also confirmed the 4-hour daily pauses, saying the reprieves are meant to allow people to move to the south of Gaza and obtain food and medicine, which of course is very much needed over there right now. Kirby would not speak to the details in terms of physical parameters of the pauses or how many days there would be.
Sit there, Texas, and take it. And if any of you ever fight back, you're all goddamn terrorists in Texas. What do you think Texas would do? Texas would blow up. Those Texas citizens would blow up.
Some more detail. Kirby announced to reporters that the 4-hour humanitarian pauses will be implemented in northern Gaza beginning Thursday yesterday. The Israelis have informed the U.S. there will be no military operations in those areas for the duration of the pauses, and the timing of them will be announced 3 hours before the pause begins each day, Kirby said. An Israeli official also confirmed the 4-hour daily pauses, saying the reprieves are meant to allow people to move to the south of Gaza and obtain food and medicine, which of course is very much needed over there right now. Kirby would not speak to the details in terms of physical parameters of the pauses or how many days there will be pauses, but this also comes with the addition of a second humanitarian corridor, this time along the sea, to allow for the safe passage of many more civilians. That said, Israel has made clear there will be no full ceasefire at this time. Quote, "The fighting continues and there will be no ceasefire without the release of our hostages. Israel is allowing safe passage through humanitarian corridors from the northern Gaza Strip to the south, which 50,000 Gazans utilized just yesterday. We once again call on the civilian population of Gaza to evacuate to the south." That's a statement from the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office. President Biden also chiming in, confirming there will not be a full ceasefire. Here's the clip.
What are the conditions of the Gaza ceasefire? No possible.
There's a lot more detail, including
he says none, no ceasefire, none. I gotta say, this is excellent PR. You can slaughter 10,000 civilians and then in the end offer some 4-hour humanitarian pause. And that's the only thing you want to talk about. The first thing is, let's only talk about October 7th. October 7th, you talk about 1,500 people as you killed 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. Then in the end, when it's all said and done and people say, man, this is really messed up what you did, you can say, listen, we did the best we can. We offered the pauses. Look at the pauses and we let them go, right? Right? You stick that in at the end and then you just keep talking about it. Yeah.
the tie-in of Iran and an increase of hostilities there. But let's first take a break to discuss some of what we just talked about. Cenk.
Okay, so there's three mentions of humanitarian projects there. So let me distinguish between them because it's really important. Humanitarian corridor, great, fantastic. That's what we want. That's a real development. Please don't bomb it, okay? Because Israel said, hey, move out of the north, go to the south, you'll be safe there. And then they bombed the south. So as long
Love that he called that out. He's like, yo, I like that you're doing that, but don't bomb it. Because they would do something like that. And that's exactly what I'm thinking as well. I'm like, whoa, get these people to line up and then you just kill them all. Like, yeah.
they're not bombing the humanitarian corridor, great. All right, that's terrific. Second thing, humanitarian pause. I'm split on this. On the one hand, it's baby steps towards maybe one day a ceasefire. So there's an argument to be made that you take any progress over no progress, right? On the other hand, 4-hour humanitarian pause is a lunch break. Like they got to stop at some point to eat dinner, whatever. Reload. It's nothing. It's not real. I mean, that's not a. It's a tiny thing, right? Maybe
it's not real. I think a 4-hour pause is real. And a lunch break, some people get 15 minutes lunch. If you're lucky, you get an hour. 4-hour lunch break? I don't know, man. That seems pretty real to me. Whether it's enough, that's another conversation, but to say it's not real. How about I say you're not real? The Young Turks is not a real show.
You could use and people say, hey, like, you can use the 4 hours to get aid to people civilians who were harmed, etc. in the area. Okay, that makes it a little bit more real. Okay, so do with that as you want, right? If people are saying like, good, mission accomplished, then I don't agree with that at all. That's preposterous, right? But if you're saying it's completely useless, that's probably too much, right? If there's some use to it, it's incrementally okay. But if you notice the offer for the exchange of hostages, we all want the hostages back, right? So sometimes people say, well, why don't you yell at Hamas? Okay, here, I'm officially yelling at Hamas. God damn it, give the hostages back. Okay, that's not gonna work. So why wouldn't we all want the hostages back, right? So if they want an exchange for Palestinian prisoners that Israel has. Now, I hate hostage exchanges. Palestinian prisoners that Israel has. Now, I hate hostage exchanges. I'm not sure that the US should have ever done any, Israel should have ever done any, but there is a very long history and precedent of prisoner exchanges between the Israelis and the Palestinians. So in this case, they're saying, no, we're not going to do that. Well, we'll see if that's true or not, but at least publicly they're saying that. Instead, we're going to exchange the hostages for some humanitarian aid. That's not a realistic offer. They're never going to take that. So okay, so you take a humanitarian aid for what, a couple hours, a couple of days, and then you go back to the bombings. And what leverage did the other side get from that? I don't want Hamas to have any leverage. I want them to give the hostages back. But we have to be realistic about how to actually execute that. If you're offering, oh yeah, I'll let you take a lunch break and you give me all the hostages back, you're not going to get them back. So be realistic. So, but to be fair, I don't know what's happening behind the scenes. None of us do. And maybe they're having a real exchange about, realistic terms. But the ones that are being put out there now are not at all realistic. One last thing, Joe Biden there, pretty callous. So I get that he doesn't want to ceasefire. Totally, utterly disagree with him. I don't think Israel should drop a single more bomb on Gaza or the West Bank or any of the occupied territories. But
they should just give up?
No. So we'll talk about that in a second.
They should just give up. The classic falls. Is this the dichotomy? I think. Yeah, because he disagrees with stopping of the bombing. He supports this argument by pretending as if the only alternative to bombing is something that most would agree would be unacceptable, right? So he pretends as if you don't bomb, then that means you're giving up. But that's not actually reality, right? Bombing is not the only way we conduct war, right? Bombs are not the only weapons we have, right? Bombing is not the only tactic we have, right? So it's not bombing or nothing. It's not bombing civilians or you give up. Does this guy think that that's how it works? That bombing is the only thing they can do? Is he really that dumb?
On the other hand, even if you don't want a ceasefire, going, no chance, haha. Like, that's not helpful. And by the way, 2/3 of Americans want a ceasefire. So it's spitting in our face a little bit. Like, what do you think?
100% agree. His response was very callous. And if a majority of Americans are saying, hey, man, we should, not be doing this, then your response should be respectful of what the people who elected you want, right? If you're going to go against what they're saying for whatever reason, you should be a little bit more smooth with it. Not so savage like you guys don't matter. I mean, do we? I'm just saying it's not a good look.
Americans want a ceasefire. So it's spitting in our face a little bit. Like, what do you think you live in a democracy? Our leaders are never going to give you what you want. Okay, Mark.
It was definitely impolitic, to be polite, for Biden to respond that way. I mean, he could have, especially someone like Biden, could have been more equivocal or vague or something. It was, I thought it was an interesting response from that standpoint.
100%.
Israel is not going to do, just like you easily say, Hamas isn't going to take that. Israel's not going to take that. They've just suffered the worst attack in their history, and so they're going to try to
pay back 8 times over. So,
yeah, but it's not about payback. It's about an objective in the war.
Like it.
It's not. It's about an objective in the war.
What's the objective?
The objective is to get rid of Hamas, the terrorists.
Impossible.
Impossible. So then,
it's interesting how confident this guy is in what their intentions are. Is he part of the IDF? Is he privy to their battle plans and their conversations? Now, a lot of the evidence based on what we see happening seems to indicate that they're not trying to go after Hamas. I can't imagine a scenario where they're trying to go after Hamas where the results look like the way they are. But I don't know, man. For this guy to be sitting here and just throwing away and ignoring all the evidence to the contrary, and with such confidence saying that that's not what they're not doing revenge. You sure about that, buddy?
just give up. So then Israel just
it's not
deals
a matter
with
of giving
terrorists.
up, but like it's an absurd goal. Like, is Hamas going to raise their hand one day and go, okay, we give up?
Really? How did we get rid of the Nazis? How did we just defeat the Nazis?
Because those were a different time, Ben.
So now we can no longer defeat evil forces.
We couldn't defeat the Taliban. We couldn't defeat anybody in Iraq. We couldn't defeat the Sunni insurgency. We couldn't defeat the Vietnamese because in.
So now we can no longer defeat evil forces. Evil forces. Interesting choice of words. Not saying Hamas is not evil. But I'm just saying, when you start using that kind of language, you're talking about axis of evil. People who use that kind of language, there's some other stuff that's connected to it that's kind of like, I don't know, buddy.
old days, you defeated people by murdering everyone in their home. So people who say like, hey, how did we beat the Nazis? Yeah, we firebombed Dresden and killed 70% of the civilians. That includes 70% of the babies, the grandmothers, etc. And so in those days, you fought and you killed everyone until they were tired of dying. I don't want to go back to those days.
Yeah, but those days, sadly, very sadly, are not over. That is how war works. You're just saying you're against war. And I agree, I'm against war as well. But that's how war works. Otherwise, what you're saying is that those are the old days, the new days are very sadly, are not over. That is how war works. You're just saying you're against war.
Those days, you fought and you killed everyone until they were tired of dying. I don't want to go back to those days.
Yeah, but those days, sadly, very sadly, are not over. That is how war works. You're just saying you're against war. And I agree, I'm against war as well. But that's how war works. Otherwise, what you're saying is that those are the old days, the new days are terrorists can do whatever they like. And then just with impunity, there'll be some payback for a few weeks, and then you get to stay in power.
No, so first of all,
terrorists can do whatever they like. If we kill 10,000 of your people after you kill 1,500, and then we stop, I don't think that's a definition of allowing you to do whatever you like. Right? If you kill my daughter, and I go and I kill your entire family, and maybe your neighbor too, that you like to hang out with, is that you getting to do whatever you like? Is it only not you getting to do whatever you like when I just don't stop killing until I've killed everybody who has any connection to you at all? Is that the definition of, oh, you can't do whatever you like because I'm going to kill your whole family, all neighbors, anybody in your phone contacts, every single body, right? Simply killing everyone in your house, in your household, and then stopping, doing a ceasefire. That's allowing them to do whatever they want to do. You allowed them to just kill one member of your family, and all you did is wipe out the whole household. What?
If war works by us murdering their innocent civilians, I don't want any piece of it. Second of all, it doesn't mean that you can't do anything against a terrorist. We can actually do special forces. We did against ISIS. We did against Al Qaeda. And by the way, all the bombing in Iraq killed hundreds of thousands of civilians, and it did not.
That's a good point that he made. It's just saying that this is how war works, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't mean that you accept it, right? What if the way we did war is, anyone that attacks anyone, the response is you go and you rape every female that you can find, whether it's a baby, teenager, woman, right? You rape them all, and then you chop them up, and then you throw them in the river or something. What if that was the way that wars worked? Would you respond to someone saying this is disgusting, saying, well, that's the way war works? So because that's the way war supposedly works, then it's okay?
Eradicate the Sunni insurgency or ISIS. When we used special forces and we got on the ground and we actually killed the bad guys instead of doing indiscriminate bombings, that actually did work. We did get Osama bin Laden. We did get the leader of ISIS, and that wound up. So if Israel goes in and right now, by the way, the ground troops.
That's what I said from the beginning. If you want to go get Hamas, go get Hamas, right? If you got intelligence knowing that this is a Hamas stronghold, then you can see them, right? How else you know it's a stronghold? You can see them. If you can see them, take them out, right? Not the building. You go in there and you take them out, right? Close quarters combat, right? Go in there with your special forces team and take them out. But of course, you're not going to do that because why on earth would Hamas be hanging out in a hospital knowing that Israel is out there bombing everything? Why wouldn't they be deep in their tunnels? Right? If you were Hamas and you had some big stronghold, human shield hospital, maybe in the beginning, you're like, we're going to use human shields, right? And you're like, okay, so we're going to be hanging out in this hospital like it's nothing because they're not going to bomb us. But after they've bombed, I don't know, the 10th civilian structure, just completely obliterated it. Why on earth would any Hamas be hanging out in a building? when you got miles and miles of tunnels, some of them very, very deep, right? Which Hamas is hanging on these buildings that they're bombing? Explain that to me.
As I said from day one, have been more effective. And a lot of people were against the ground troops. But I said, look, special forces is necessary. That's how you fight back against people who are trying to kill you. But if you say, hey, I'm just going to bomb, like the reason why I say not one more bomb is because bombing doesn't work. And bombing Iraq created ISIS. It didn't end ISIS, it created ISIS. Yeah. So the more we bomb the Palestinians, the bigger Hamas is going to get. In this day and age, the Viet Cong didn't raise their hand and say we give up. But neither did none of these groups say we give up. And Hamas is never, ever, ever going to say we give up. So if that's the standard, that means we're just going to keep butchering Palestinian civilians.
But by that exact standard, you're acting as though the bombing was just purely, as you seem to think it is, for revenge or retribution. They were bombing these buildings, and while again, I'll say it every time, the innocent loss of life has been horrific, it was not for no reason, and it was not indiscriminately, it was to get rid of strongholds. Buildings that they knew had Hamas strongholds in them, so that when they go in with the ground troops that you yourself were suggesting were a better idea and are a better idea, that they aren't a complete suicide mission for the Israeli troops. Also in the immediate aftermath of October 7th, you said, of course, Israel has to respond.
What are they going in to do? If a hospital is a stronghold and you bomb the whole hospital or an apartment building, what are you going in to do? There's nothing there but rubble. How is that making it easier? So you're gonna blow up an apartment building and then you're gonna now it's safer to go in and do what? Exactly.
Is going to bomb. It just, you hope that it's not a hugely disproportional number. You said, I hope it's not 10 to 1, 100 to 1. The numbers have been horrible. They've been 5 to 1 or 6 to 1. That's not good, but it's because we're trying to take out a terrorist force that also is a government. And so I do not buy the argument that there is ever going to be a...
The reason that they're killing so many civilians is because they're trying to take out a terrorist group that is a government. So if someone was trying to take out the United States government and we're bombing a bunch of apartment buildings and killing thousands of civilians and hardly any government people, a possible explanation might be because they're trying to go after what they call a terrorist group, but that terrorist group is also a government. What does the fact that Hamas is also the government have to do with killing civilians? If Hamas wasn't also the government, would they not be killing as many civilians? In that case, it's because they're the government. Like what is the basis? Like it's like sometimes people just say stuff and it's like, okay, but what does that really mean? So what if they're the government? What does that have to do with there's an apartment building with a bunch of civilians and you drop a bomb on it? But Hamas is also the government. That's why we're dropping a bomb. If Hamas was not government, we wouldn't bomb this apartment building. What?
Solution where you just say Hamas gets to win. And so I think a much smarter way to approach trying to get what you want.
They don't get to win, Ben. They don't get to win. So look, at the end of the day, two last things.
Again, this idea of Hamas winning. If Israel just stops and just ends this war right now, Hamas doesn't win. It's just no win. How did they win? How do you win when your enemy has inflicted 10 times the damage on you as on them have on them? How's that a win? How's that a win? When the area that your area has been completely devastated, it's just rubble. Meanwhile, your enemy, they're chilling, man. Israel looks nice right now, right? Israel looks nice right now. People are chilling. They got electricity. They got internet. People are, doing what leisurely stuff. They're chilling. They're going to college. People are traveling around the world. How is it possible for Israel to ever just stop and Hamas has won? Like, what does that word win mean to you if you consider that a win? It's impossible for the Hamas to win, right? Once Israel went past 1,500, kills, that was it. It was over, right? Hamas win ended at that point. If Israel just killed like 5 of them, then it's like, wow, Hamas won. Look what Hamas did to you guys, and you guys just killed 5 of their people. And then it's 100. You kill 100. Israel kill 100 of them. Wow, they killed 1,500. You just killed. Wow. And then you just walked away? Wow. But when you get to 10,000 and the devastation, like all those buildings destroyed, babies on, just being disconnected, like the hospital losing power, you got a baby on an incubator and just like pull the plug. I mean, people are fighting with doctors. Where's the win? How do you win? Like what does the word win mean to this guy? Wow.
You got more of the story to
But a
tell us.
smarter part, what I'm saying, a smarter part, a way to do that is to not demonize people that are responding from this horrible terror attack, but instead say, great, thank you for a 4-hour every single day during war humanitarian pause and an extra humanitarian corridor. Actually turn the rhetoric towards something that is more inclusive and more positive and say we are moving towards the right direction. Not immediately on day one saying that's not real. Maybe it's a tiny bit real, but it's not real. No, it's a major, significant change in the conditions on the ground. It's Israel going against what it believes its objectives need to be, to listen to the world community, to give opportunity.
I mean, he's not lying. Doing a 4-hour, people gotta be honest, man. To suggest that a 4-hour pause is nothing, right? I mean, it's just like we have this binary way of thinking. There's a certain outcome that you think is the bare minimum that what should occur, right? And anything less, you just pretend it doesn't exist. It's not real. It's not even relevant. Right? Even me, suspicious of the humanitarian pause and wondering maybe they might, shoot at them while they're going through the corridor. Would we even know? Even with all that cynicism, I'm not going to deny reality. The reality of, on one hand, you have bombing all day, all night, every day. I don't mean that literally. Right? And now you have 4-hour pauses where there's no bombing. And you have a path that's set for people to escape. I mean, to ignore, I appreciate maybe what people are doing is they're trying to express how this is not enough. But if that's what you're trying to express, then do that. Actually do that. Say it's not enough. But don't say it's nothing and pretend like it's not real. It's real. Right? I mean, listen, again, I'm super cynical. I would be with you if you say that this is fake. Not fake, but it's a PR thing, right? They're trying to make themselves look, trying to make up for what they've done in the past. I'll be with you on that. But regardless of the intentions, I'm not going to ignore the effect. Right? I mean, put yourself in the Palestinians' position. Do you think if you were in the Gaza Strip right now, that you would consider these 4-hour pauses nothing? Previously, it's nonstop bombing. You're afraid to even, for whatever reason, you were stuck somewhere and, you're afraid to even go out. How do you leave? How do you leave? How do you leave? You don't know when they're going to bomb, what they're going to bomb. You're just terrified. And now there's this 4-hour pauses. Even you're suspicious. Like, are they really gonna uphold it? Right? But when you hear no bombing for 4 hours consistently on a daily basis and a specific path, and you see all these people, walking down, if you were in the Gaza Strip, would you be looking at that and say, that's not real. It's nothing. Seems like the kind of thing that somebody would say who's not directly involved and just kind of commenting on something, right? Not really thinking about what's really happening and the impact on the lives of these people. Just like, just content, online content, right? You're in your comfy homes commenting on something without fully understanding necessarily all the dynamics of what's going down. That's what that sounds like to me.
For aid to come in. That's the big source of outcry from all of the groups saying civilians are being killed. So let the civilians out. So they're doing that. Extra humanitarian
They're not
corridor.
letting anybody out. Gaza's a prison. You can't leave
Because
Gaza.
Egypt will not open their border.
That's ridiculous. If Egypt opens the borders and the Palestinians go to Egypt, Israel's going to close the border and just take Gaza.
I think they're both wrong on that one. Potentially. They're letting them out of the battle zone, right? The north is the battle zone, right? That's their thing. I know they bombed in the south as well. but primarily the operations are happening in the north. So when you say let them out, it's let them out of the battle zone, let them out of the north to get into the south. I think that would be the steelman interpretation of what letting them out means, right? Don't jump to like letting them out of the Gaza Strip into another country. Like that's clearly not what they're doing, but that's not what was meant by saying letting them out, right?
No way. That's crazy. No way.
It's
No
entirely
how.
up to Egypt to keep that border open or not. But certainly not going to open the borders in their own country.
No, Israel and Egypt have an alliance, and that's why. Look, so we have massive disagreements. So when at one point they had about 8,000 civilians killed and 13 Hamas members killed. No, they weren't trying to bomb Hamas. They were doing indiscriminate bombings.
13 Hamas members killed. Where are you getting that number?
I got it from a news report. We reported on it.
Hamas does not distinguish in their numbers between Hamas soldiers and civilians. You have no idea how many Hamas soldiers were killed in that 10,000.
Even Netanyahu at one point, and he's a grotesque liar.
We have no idea how many Hamas are killed. Israel, who would greatly benefit from showing high numbers of Hamas casualties, are not themselves indicating high number of Hamas casualties. Israel, who have shown themselves to be dishonest, right, and who would benefit from saying a high number of casualties, has not been reporting on high casualties. So what is this guy talking about? What is he talking about? I mean, does he have an alternate source of information than that we're all looking at? I mean, all information coming out is like low numbers of Hamas. So why would he just challenge it randomly? Does he have alternate facts? And where's he getting it from? Because it's not from the IDF.
Said in an ABC report, well, 10,000 were killed, but 1,000 of those could have been Hamas. Could have been. And if that's true, but you take Netanyahu's numbers, that's still awful. If you said to me, I've said this 100 times, hey, that guy killed your family members. There's no way that I don't want to kill that guy. I will be filled with rage. And you say there's 9 civilians around him, an aunt, an uncle, a grandma, a baby, etc. Would I bomb them and kill those 9 civilians to get the bad guy? Never, because it is deeply immoral.
100% with him on that one. 100% with him on that.
I'm not going to do the same thing a terrorist would do. That's insanity. And Israel's saying, yeah, I don't care. I don't care about the ratio. I dropped the bombs. The buildings collapsed. The babies' heads are crushed.
But they are
defense.
That is a lie.
That's not defense. That's offense.
But they are not saying that. They are taking far more measures than any country that I know of to make sure the civilians leave the area.
They take the least amount of measures.
They make phone calls directly. They drop defense out of the sky. They make multiple statements on social media and on television. They paused. They said 24 hours to escape. UN said it's impossible.
Escape to what? Escape to what? It's an open-air prison.
To the south.
To the south, which they also bombed.
They bombed it a little bit to get rid of also Hamas targets. It's not the main area that the main bombing is happening. And so that is the reality of war. You're still not ever suggesting concretely how you suggest that Israel lives in peace and possibly
can I answer, please?
Sure.
It's so easy.
Yeah.
Okay, special forces to take out the Hamas guys who attacked. No problem, I've said it from day one. Try to release the hostages, do negotiation, do power, do all the things that you do. Then, this is super important, end the goddamn occupation.
There isn't an occupation in Gaza. I'll say it to the day I'm done.
Don't be insane,
There is a security and blockade of supplies. There is not an occupation. They voluntarily ended it in 2005 and removed forcibly their own Israeli citizens. Hey. How are you going to ask people to end an occupation that ended in 2005? And at least let's use words accurately. Because I've seen too many times on this network people saying genocide when it is not one. People saying occupation when it is not one. There is an occupation in the West Bank. I admit it because that's the definition and the words. But when the occupation ends, you say end the occupation. What are you asking them to end it again? Should they go back in and then end it again? Is that the request?
Ben, okay, if I come to your house and say, look, I'm not occupying your house, but I can cut the water and power anytime, and I could starve you, and I could make sure you don't even get any water, and if you disagree with me on anything, I could drop a bomb on your head.
Hey, I'm not occupying. It's called a blockade.
I'm not occupying.
It's called a blockade.
I can just murder you anytime I like, but I'm not occupying.
But it's not the word.
Okay,
it's called a blockade.
Let me tell you something. Listen to me really clearly. If you guys are on the side of the Palestinians, right, and you get too emotional on this, you're gonna be agreeing with Cenk, right? And you're gonna think he's making very strong points, saying how is that not an occupation? But if you think critically, right, and you put your emotions aside, and you actually consider what these words mean, and do what I did, I don't know everything, right? I wasn't sure what the definition of these words. I hear people talking about it all the time, but I'm not 100% clear. I have an idea of what they mean. And that's the thing, a lot of people have ideas of what words mean. And for some reason, I guess arrogance, we don't confirm stuff. We just kind of like think we know. Well, that's not me. I don't think I know, right? I verify, right? I have instincts. I have a feeling about stuff, but then I verify it. I like to verify stuff. So even though I would generally be, for most of this discussion, on Cenk's side with a lot of what he's saying. I'm not tribal, right? So I'm not going to just go with everything he's saying, right? I'm going to go with where I see the truth as being, right? So I looked up blockade, and what do you know? It's literally what Cenk just described, right? Where you're isolating people and cutting off, you have control of the electricity and all that. Basically, what he just described, he's literally describing a blockade, right? Now, some people may say semantics, but I think it's more than that, right? I think it says something about potentially Cenk's integrity and also his lack of self-control, getting maybe too emotional, too tribal, too caught up in his anger and defending his position, and not really having a discussion and hearing and listening and thinking. He's just kind of reacting, right? Hammer on the knee, right? Because the guy makes a valid point. He says, no, that's a blockade, right? And I don't really see Cenk acknowledging what he's saying. I don't see Cenk really saying anything about, no, it's not a blockade. Did he say? I don't think he said that. He just keeps saying, insisting that it's a occupation. It's an occupation, right? They're pretending it's not. He mentions the word like, no, it's a blockade. That's what a blockade is. You're not using the right word. Does Cenk stop and think like, okay, does he have a point, or what's he saying? A blockade? Is it a blockade? No, I don't think he's thinking about it at all. Cenk is just caught up in his own world of defending his position and you're wrong and I'm right. Right? And you have to think why maybe you didn't pick up on that. If you are on the Palestinian side and you didn't realize what Cenk did, which is not conceding a point. You're having a debate, someone made a point, and if they're correct, you concede the point. You say, okay, you're right. You can even hit back and say, okay, you're right. It's a blockade, but that's really semantics. Who cares about what you call it? I'm more focused on what's happening and the impact and blah, blah, blah. Fine. But to pretend like you didn't hear what he said, to not even challenge it, because all he's doing is just keep saying it's a occupation, it's like occupation. He's not denying that it's a blockade. He's not acknowledging the point about the blockade. He just keeps saying that. And then the thing is, after this point, he continues to call it an occupation. Right? You made a mistake. You were corrected. Why deny it? Why reject it? Why continue to make the same mistake?
Prison. So Israel should stop imprisoning Palestinians in Gaza.
And you know the big difference though is that when you have prisons, the people that run the prisons don't offer freedom to all of the people 6 different times, and they reject it when they get 85 to 97% of their requests. I've seen you shake off in interviews your head about saying they've been offered peace. You go like this. You go no. But they have been offered peace many times. So shouldn't they accept that? What is your plan? Why aren't you telling Hamas right now? Release the goddamn hostages. Accept peace. Make a peace agreement. Put on paper. Put your money where your mouth is, and offer a solution. Don't just keep demonizing Israel and not offering a way to solve the goddamn problem, because that goes on forever.
So 2 things about that, Ben. Number one.
Demonizing Israel. So, some guy kills my wife, and then for a month, I just go by killing every member of his family I can find. And people that are upset with me are demonizing me. I'm being a savage. I'm just killing women, children, anyone I can connect to this person, right? In self-defense. And people are focused on me because I'm the one that's currently doing the savagery on a daily basis, right? And that's demonizing me? Interesting.
Mission accomplished. Hamas, do a ceasefire, never attack Israel, recognize their right to exist, release the hostages. Obviously. And by the way, no, hold on.
By the way, does anyone know what's the latest thing that Hamas has done? And I know disingenuous people are going to say I'm pro-Hamas, but it's not about being pro-Hamas. It's about being pro-facts. When's the last big Hamas attack? Since October 7th. Did they cross the border again and kill a bunch of people? I mean, even IDF, who would love to say bad things about Hamas, all they keep talking about is October 7th. It's almost as if Hamas hasn't really done much stuff since then, except a couple of them being killed. But otherwise, the killing is mostly IDF killing civilians. That's what's happening on a daily basis, right? What's Hamas doing? Why would we be talking about Hamas and focusing on Hamas when I don't even... What would I even be talking about? We don't even... Like, again, the IDF would love to say bad stuff about them or whatever, but not even them. They're not reporting on Hamas doing stuff. When's the last time you heard the IDF say, Hamas just killed some more women or something? And remember, Hamas has 250 prisoners? Right? So they could be chopping up heads and, doing stuff on video, some gruesome stuff, and sending the videos to the families or something like that. I mean, they can do stuff. Like, if you think that they can't do anything because like they don't have the power and it's a big military, they have the people, right? And IDF could even lie that they're doing stuff, but we're not. But you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if IDF lying and saying that they're doing some crazy stuff. But we're not hearing anything. We're not hearing anything from IDF about what Hamas is doing. All we're hearing and seeing on a daily basis is the IDF slaughtering babies, women, and civilians. And once in a while, supposedly, they're killing Hamas, who, for whatever reason, are not in their tunnels but are above ground in buildings doing what, I don't know. If you were Hamas, would you be in an apartment building? Or would you be in your tunnels?
Even more concrete. Hamas, stop being goddamn idiots. You're destroying the Palestinian cause as well as being immoral. Will you kill those innocent Israeli civilians? And I wish Israel made a better offer, and I wish the Palestinians took a bad offer.
So that's the solution then?
Yes, exactly. Right. But at this point, both Obama and Trump have said Netanyahu doesn't want peace. He hasn't offered peace. He doesn't want peace. He wants permanent occupation. So for God's sake, fire Netanyahu. If it's a democracy, fire him. Because if you don't fire him, you're saying, yeah, I like what he's doing. We're going to occupy these poor people forever. In West Bank, there's no violence except by the settlers.
On that, I totally agree.
But they're still occupied. But they're still occupied because they like it. They like occupying.
I appreciate that Ben concedes a point, unlike Cenk earlier.
People were trying to remove Netanyahu, and then there was a horrific terrorist attack.
They brought it back like 4 times.
Yeah,
Look,
he's not a partner for peace. I agree with that 100%. He was funding Hamas to help make sure there was not peace that happens. That is true. But now we're in a reality that is now...
I appreciate, once again, Ben conceding some points, acknowledging some uncomfortable truths.
Very hard to unwind unless some concrete solution is offered, not just simply telling one side, we know the other side is terrorists, and so we have to just give it in.
No, don't give it. 67 borders, end the occupation. Occupation is a core evil, and if you don't end the occupation, I would do it unilaterally. Here, 67 borders, good luck. You guys are sovereign now, you can have your own police, military, do whatever you like, you cross over, and then we come and obliterate you, okay? But they made a peace deal with Egypt. Do a peace deal. It's not that complicated. Israel, you have got to let them go. We all want to go to Israel. We want Israel to be a beautiful, safe place filled with loving people, which it is. But we can't go, and we can't root for you, and we can't do any of these things if you kill citizens at this enormous rate and never give any hope to those Palestinians. And they go, they should know that they're defeated. They should know that they're going to stay occupied for the rest of time because they're savages. Savages. They can't ever have peace. They're always doing violence. We're going to occupy them for another 50 years.
Again, they're not occupied, and the savages are the leadership that is holding them hostage, the Palestinians.
But you know what?
Come on. They're not occupied. It's a blockade, buddy.
Israeli leadership are also savages. And at this point, they've been 7 times as savage as Hamas, which if I'm an Israeli citizen, I'm sickened by that fact.
The numbers are horrible.
That is correct.
It's in self-defense, and you know that's a difference. You know that's a big difference.
Yeah.
There was so much more to this story. We don't have time to get to it now, but I'll just briefly summarize.
FYI, from what I'm hearing, Hamas killed half civilians, half military. On the other hand, the IDF is killing 95% civilians, 5% Hamas. So, by those metrics, Hamas is more humane than IDF. I was shocked when I realized it, but again, I'm not on a side. I'm just about what the truth is, right? So I have no problem being able to accept and realize something like that. It's shocking, but I'm just like, well, that's what the numbers show. It is what it is, right? Hamas are more humane than IDF. Wow.
A reminder, not just are the leadership of the Palestinian people in Gaza, the terrorist organization Hamas, they are backed by one of America's enemies, Iran, and they just again celebrated annually as they do the other day the 1979 taking of Americans hostage at the U.S. Embassy, and there were the chants, death to America, death to Israel, by the people that sponsor the suicide attackers and the terrorists in the Palestinian territories, paid for by Iran. And who was speaking at that rally was one of the leaders of Hamas, the envoy of Hamas to Iran in his official office and official capacity. And those are the people that are funding, that people are siding with and acting as though just tell Israel to deal with it, deal with it. No, how about get the world community to stop funding terror and actually be a true partner for peace? So this time when it is offered, perhaps they will take the offer and not dwell in the past forever, because everyone's past is very painful in this scenario. The only way forward is to move forward.
Iran does fund Hamas. I despise the leadership of the Iranian government. They're mullahs, and they would kill.
Chant death to America, and we did all the exact same things to them.
You know what? I'm seeing it on college campuses, and
Exact same things to them.
But that's why you have to have a peace deal. Mark, last word.
well, I just think that on the Iran thing, it is that they hate the West, Cenk. I mean, I don't know even that anybody chanting death to America in Iran right now is necessarily responding to what you correctly pointed out was the installation of the Shah and the removal of somebody who was democratically elected. I also think we have to be a little.
This is the Debate Me channel. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this crazy situation. Is this all theatrics? Is Cenk pretending to be angry and putting on a rage, basically putting on a show, pandering to a certain audience? Or was that real rage? What do you think? Comment below. And I'm out!